everyone, it's Lisa from My Dreaming Soap. Welcome to my channel and thanks for dropping by. Now I thought it was about time that I actually appeared in an intro to one of my videos, as recently I've just been the hands and arms behind making the soap. Now this soap is another soap challenge soap. And for this month, the soap challenge was abstract designs. Now, abstract art is actually quite complicated with some very specific definitions. And the guidelines for the soap challenge had to be made really clear so that everybody knew exactly what would fit the guidelines and what wouldn't. So therefore, you may find in abstract art that sometimes people will do an abstract version of a tree or an abstract version of a butterfly, that type of thing. In the Challenge Club rules, the guidelines stated that the only things that you could do would be things that didn't represent reality, which is normal abstract, but the guidelines were expanded more than that to say you shouldn't be including things like animals, people, objects, those sort of things. And the reason for that is that it would be very difficult for someone to decide, and obviously for it to be judged, about whether somebody had done an abstract version of a butterfly or just badly drawn a butterfly. So therefore, we were just looking at things like shapes and patterns for all of these designs. Now with these designs, it was okay to make a soap and you could do anything that you liked in the base of the soap. You could put in embed, you could do whatever you like. You could make it in a slab mould, you could make it in a loaf mould. The key thing was that you had to have a flat surface to your soap and you couldn't muck around with that flat surface. And then on top of that, you would do your abstract design by adding more soap. Now you could actually add the soap however you like. So you could pipe it on, you could put it on with a spoon or whatever. But the soap did have to be manipulated in some way. So you couldn't just do a piped design. That wasn't what was being looked for. Also, the soap batter had to be applied in a thick trace. So that ruled out things like, you know, sometimes you see people doing sort of hair dryers blowing around soap patterns or string pulls. All of those things were ruled out. So essentially we were looking at soap being added to the top of a soap and then manipulated. Most people, I would imagine, like me, have gone for the spatula approach. Now I'm sure these have a better name than this. Now for the life of me, it has slipped my mind. I'm sure people will mention it in the comments. What are they? We'll go for spatulas for now. Come on, let's go make some soap. Knives. Come on, soap. So I'm going to start off this soap by making the base soap, which I'll put my abstract design on. So colouring wise, I want to do an ombre. So I've got sort of hopefully gentle colours going throughout the soap. So I'm going to be using some golden shimmer from Mica Mama and also some neon pink. Now, that may not say gentle colours, neon pink, but I'm using an assessment that I've already got done. I've got neon pink in my assessment and I do want a pink colour, but I'm just going to calm that down with titanium dioxide. So I get a nice pastel pink. I'll also add some TD to my gold as well. And I also am just going to have some titanium dioxide on its own. So those are my colours. And then with my fragrance oil, this is white cashmere from Scent Perfect in the UK. So I've got all of my oils prepared and my lye solution. Because this is an ombre, I need to mix everything up together. I've got everything at the lowest temperature that I like to soap at, and if you've seen my videos before, you're probably used to me saying that's at 80 degrees. My oils are actually at 81 and my lye is at 80. So I'm just going to, as normal, add my lye to my oils. And then, because I'm conscious that I'm using a fragrance oil that moves reasonably quickly, I am just going to blend this very, very lightly, probably not even worrying about getting it to emulsion at this stage. Okay, so just a tiny weeny little mix there. I'm pretty sure I can see some streaks on the top here. I'm not at emulsion. But I have got my soap mixed together, and as long as I keep it moving, it's going to be fine. And as long as I make sure I give it a good old stir before I split it out, then again, that's going to be fine. And as I keep playing with it and moving it on, it will come to emulsion, because I'm going to keep stirring it and mixing in the colours and all of that sort of thing, and I will get to the point that I need. Okay, so let's just split this off into 3 bits then. So I've got my gold dispersed in some oil, just came from my batch oils. I've got my neon pink. I've popped this into a little pot and dispersed that again in some oil, because that's going to be the first colour I want to pour, so it's going to end up going back in my base jug. And then I've got an empty jug that I'm going to put my titanium dioxide in. So let's just measure out those bits that I need. Okay, so remember, always, if you're not 100% sure that you're at emulsion, give that soap a really, really good stir before you split it off. I'm going to pop my spatula in and tear out after everything's there. And then I know I can then measure out my batter. So I know what my pink is going to be my first colour I pour, so that's going to go in my jug with that last little bit of oil in. Okay, that's a bit of a bold colour, isn't it, at the moment for my nice gentle soap, so I'm going to put some TD in there. But I'm just going to get the colours mixed in first. And remember, as this is a neon, I'm pretty sure I've dispersed it nicely in the mica, but I'm always just going to scrape up the sides just to make sure that pesky neon, there's nothing wrong with this actual neon, all neons are the same, has got no speckles in, and that's perfect. Okay, so let's go with our gold. And I'm going to, first of all, sort out this pink, because it's a little bit too bold. Okay, so there's our softer pink. I think again a little bit in my gold. It's nice, make it more of a sort of caramel colour. And then into my white. I didn't add all the titanium dioxide into my white. I need very little to make my recipe go white. I put the rest of that back into the pink because it was still a little bit bold. Ideally, I would have liked to have put less pigment in there, less of the neon in there, but I had to use what's in my recipe. It may seem weird. You might think, well, surely it's okay to leave micron that out. Unfortunately, we have to stick to everything, so I've had to go with what's in my recipe, and then I've just put some of the extra white back into there to calm it down a little. Okay, so because I'm doing an ombre, I need to tilt to my mould. So this is my, I think they call it the Cheshire Cat from Custom Craft Tools. And also my Custom Craft Tools acrylic mould. So a bit of a Custom Craft Tools day today. So with my fragrance oil, I'm just going to add it a bit of a time. I've got nice little markers on this little pot, so that's handy for me. I can see how much I need to pop in to each one. Okay, so at the moment I'm just going to mix the fragrance oil into my first two colours, so I've got as good a chance as possible of keeping everything nice and fluid, and then I'm going to start getting them poured. Okay, so here we go. I do want to get a decent amount of that pink in, first of all, before I start ombreing it, because I do want it to be sort of a colour, not necessarily an actual ombre. I just want the divides between the colours to merge. So I'm sort of doing a weird ombre, kind of, as I said, I want these colours to merge. Almost a bit sort of One Pot Wonder like. It's typical, isn't it, with your batter, when you're worried about it and you take all your precautions, and now, can you see if anything, it's staying really, really thin. So I'm sort of One Pot Wondering this in to try and start bringing in elements of this colour that I want now. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to now start bringing in more of this. So as I said, I don't want a proper ombre as such. I just want the lines not to be, you know, completely sudden and sharp. Don't forget the rest of that fragrance oil. Nearly forgot it. Right, so now I need to gently tilt this up a little bit. Whoops, up, not down. And then just get the rest of my white in. Now, because I've kept this so cool and not mixed it very much, this is actually stayed really super fluid. So I'm just being very careful as I pour this last layer in, because I don't want to end up with some sort of weird drop swirl going through the middle or anything. Okay, so I'm just going to pour this in. And again, taking it off very slowly. Remember, the quicker you move it back, the more likely you're going to get weird like steps in your soap. So I am, as normal now, just going to cover this and CPOP it and then cut it the next day, and we'll do our abstract design then. Okay, so here's our soap. And let's just chop it into chunks. Remember, I'm cutting it slightly weirdly because I want to take advantage of the design going across that way. So I've just divided it up into the width that I want each of these bars to be. And if you have a look at if we cut it normally, it's kind of, as we said, sort of a bit one-pot wondery, but it's sort of getting that sort of gradual change from one colour to another. Okay, so what I want to do is then take each of those and chop it in half down the middle. And that's going to form the base for our soap. And as you can see, I'm quite pleased how those colours are sort of gradually changing from one to the other. So I just finished that with the rest of them. So I've made up some more soap batter, and as you can see, I've got some white here. Some more of that gentle gold. And some pink. Now, as I made these up, I obviously just made up a small batch of soap. Now, I'm not going to need all this, but I thought for me, I wanted to make a little bit extra to make sure I had enough, and then I'll use the rest as soap dough because this isn't fragranced. But as I was making it up, these two here were setting up a little bit quicker than my pink. So what I did is I put this pink into a smaller pot, and then that encourages it, because it's all compressed together and it gets a little bit warmer, that encouraged that to hurry up a bit. It's still a little bit softer, but it has sort of caught up with the others a bit. So that's quite good if you've got things setting up at different rates. Now all I'm going to do is, I've got a little silicone sheet here. You could use some freezer paper or whatever. Have yourself a little practice first. So therefore, I know that I'm going to want to start with putting some little blobs down. Now, pink might be a bit too thin at the moment. It's still thick enough, sort of eligible competition-wise, as it were. It's still a thick trace. It's not flowing anywhere. But it may be a little bit thick for what I want. Okay, so I'm just going to have a little bit of a play around. Taking up a bit of my white and just spreading it. That seems to be spreading nicely. And then what I want to do is I want to get my batter that's on my palette knife, and I want it to sort of roll so it goes nice and smooth. So I can get a nice smooth line. So that's what I want. Okay, so taking my white, I want pure white to start with. I want to roll that, and then I'm just going to pop it onto my soap and then do that again. Okay, and now I want to start bringing in some gold. So still mainly white, but just a little touch of gold, and get those sort of blended in a bit.
So I left the soaps for another day just until that abstract bit on the top was nice and firm, and then took some photos. Here's a final shot of the soap. I hope you've enjoyed this video, everyone, and that you like the soap. If you have, it would be great if you gave me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, then why not subscribe to my channel? If you've got any questions or comments, then please leave them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy soaping!